Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to On Your Mental. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ruben.
I'm the other co-host, Kabir.
Not better looking this time. There we go. We're on a roll. This episode, we have Jaspal joining us. Jaspal Sidhu. He is a content creator, video maker, YouTuber, TikToker, a member of Please's Ponsaurus, which is himself, Derek Gerard, who's been on the podcast, Jesse Beavis, who's been on the podcast, and Joseph Laval, who's been on the podcast. We talk about mental health as a whole, his story with it, relationships, all the good stuff. And I think you're all going to like this one. See you in a second when it starts. Peace. Have you done a podcast before? Other than Derek's in the car? I guess that counts too, though, to be fair.
I don't think I have. I've talked on a lot of people's videos, I guess, but not like podcast style. Mm-hmm. So I'm very excited for this.
You're comfortable on camera, just not with a mic down your throat.
No.
Yeah.
Just other things down my throat for sure.
Yes.
Easily. But
now you're going to taste of what we're getting into.
I know.
This guy gets it.
It's a different video. It's just like it's a black casting couch. Like, oh shit. Yeah, I'm ready.
Just quickly cuts. Oh man. This is just like the preamble before those videos, you know. Get people warmed up. Yeah. So how old are you? What's your name? What made you want to get into the business? Anyways, why do I know so much about that stuff? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Why are we agreeing? Because we obviously watch it.
We don't know. None of us watch any of that.
Yeah, never.
Before we get into like the actual episode, just wanted to touch base with you quick. Like, what's new with you? What's new with your life? What's going on?
I have no idea. Should I look at the camera? Because I'm like,
You can look at us.
Okay.
This doesn't matter.
Okay,
This is just for video.
Well, so far right now, like, we've stopped kind of making TikToks as much. Just
with
the
we,
boys.
when you say we, what's
with like,
we?
Please sponsor us, our TikTok page.
I love how you actually say it.
Yeah.
As what it is.
Well, I can't. I always mess up saying it with the rest of the boys.
Please is Ponsaurus.
But I say it so quickly, and it's like as a joke that I always like mess up the wording, and every time it's for like a promotional thing, and they're like, "Bro, what
the fuck are you doing?"
I know, what am I doing? So please sponsor us. We're
There
on
you
a
go.
little bit of a break right now. Just to focus on our friendship, I guess. I feel like we've just kind of been focusing more on like the film aspect of everything, but not really our friendship as much. So we've been trying to work on that now. But with that, I've had a lot more extra time to start my own YouTube channel up again.
Right.
I've like taken so many breaks just because of like mental health and just other things I've been wanting to do. But honestly, this is the happiest I've been in a long time.
Nice, man.
So I'm like cloud 9 right now for sure.
That's awesome.
Group's breaking up.
Yeah. Why do you think I'm here?
You're going solo. Man. Why do you like you're taking the break when you say to focus on the friendships? Is it just that you felt like you were only getting together to film kind of thing?
Yeah, it was like, honestly, it felt like that. And we just didn't prioritize like the core of everything, you know, and that is our friendship. That's why a lot of people watched us because of that. And we can definitely get back to that. Like, it's not hard to do, but it's just like we just kind of lost track or lost sight of it. It's like one door not closes, but like that also opened up my own like creative side and like on my own YouTube channel, which I feel like I haven't felt this way in such a long time for YouTube. Because
felt what way? Like
just how happy I am with filming and like the anxiety that I used to have with filming, which was a lot. This is the first time I'd say in like 6-7 years of like making videos where I'm like, whoa, I don't have any anxiety. Oh. I'm just enjoying this, loving it.
That's awesome.
Like what I'm posting, I'm proud of. Like for a long time, I felt like I was proud of it, but like, I feel like this is the first time where I've really been like a 100% like I love everything about this. So that's been kind of fun for me.
Yeah, I feel like there's if like I'm thinking about posting stuff,
there's
a lot of like self-doubt into it, you know, when you post something and you're like, would people like this? And
100%.
a lot of that shit.
Yeah, well, like I wasn't supposed to be on camera when I first started making videos with Derek. He asked me to like hold a camera and that was it, but then he started talking to me and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yes, I'm here.
I guess I'm here now. So I started talking and then he's like, come with me. I'm like, let's do something on this over here on camera. I'm like, okay. And that just kind of popped off, like with me not wanting it, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to mess this up. But honestly, it was like, that was where the friendship thing came in, because we had been friends since we were like 12. So to me, it was just, we're filming now, but I'm actually just hanging out with my best friend.
Right.
And that's all it was. But
there's just something to do.
Yeah, exactly. It was just something to do. But then it just became even bigger and bigger. And Derek's like, quit your job and quit university. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't know if I can do that. Like, that's something that's kind of, I don't know if I can do this full time. Like, he's like, just trust me, it will work out. You're meant for this. You're meant for this. And I think that was the first time where I took a massive risk in my life. And I never really did that as much before. And it paid off, because I've been doing it now for so long. And like, I got a lot of success from that. But yeah, I think that was like a massive turning point in my life with how I like viewed a lot of stuff. But it's been like a learning curve ever since. Every single year, there's like something that I find out about myself that, oh, this is not good. I got to change this. I got to change this. I got to change this. But like, every single year, I've just grown more and more and more and more.
It's constant work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I learned. You have to consistently work at like mental health. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's like a muscle. You got to keep working on it. Otherwise it's just going to deteriorate, you know?
For sure.
So,
Sure. Well, before we keep going here, I do this all the time now, is I forget to welcome you. So welcome, Jaspal, to the podcast.
Hi, guys.
You've been talking a little bit so far about making videos and doing stuff with Derek. Derek's also been on the podcast before a couple of times. This is your first time, so welcome.
Thank you.
And you're feeling like you're in a good place right now, which is a good time to talk, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. And when you're in a good place, it's nice to reflect on like points where maybe you weren't at certain times in your life, you know?
Yeah.
So I think this will be a good place to come at it, because now you're not in that. You know, you can see it for what it was, those tougher moments.
Yeah.
First question. You think you're better than us?
Well, I mean, I have the best shirt on right now.
Oh, without a doubt, man. Holy shit. Where'd you get the shirt? How did it happen?
Wow.
I got to give you the avenue to say this.
Derek Gerard got me this shirt. I have to say that. Derek Gerard, he bought me this shirt.
Thanks, Derek.
It's a rule. I have to say it every single time.
Man. It's a sick shirt, though. It is a really, really cool shirt.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We're going to be talking today a little bit about your journey with mental health, and I like that you tie that into the video stuff you do, content creation as a whole, right? I feel icky saying content creation. Like, that feels weird. It's like you're making content for someone to consume. Yeah. Whereas it's like you like to do stuff with video. You like to be creative.
Yeah.
Right?
And I didn't know that I liked that until like I started doing it. I'm like, whoa. Because growing up for me, it was all soccer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
shit.
like,
I played soccer.
Oh, no way.
Why did we not ever like run into
Wait,
each other?
what? I just don't like I don't know. I haven't talked about it in a long time. But yeah, that was my goal. Like, growing up in high school, like I was just like, it was soccer. And then I just made a decision, like, I want to go pro. I'm going to go pro. I'm going to go pro. And then I eventually went overseas and played there. Went to England play, and then like got hurt, couldn't play anymore.
Oh, fucking classic.
Yeah. And that was the first ever experience with like, I don't think I was depressed, but I was very, very down, but I didn't know how to get out of it.
You got derailed.
Yeah. Like, when I look back now, I'm like, whoa, I had no motivation to anything. Just even like the simplest things, like just getting out of bed. Yeah, it was just like my whole life was focused on that. And then it just went like, that was over. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then like, luckily with YouTube coming in, like Derek has asked me to play. That was like a 6 month period, I think 6 month period where like I had like, it was the worst case of like sadness and just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. It was just, everything was like crumbling at one time. And yeah, I remember like after that, I was like, okay, I'm fine now. Like I have something else to focus on.
Right.
But I never really like worked on my mental health.
Because those are exterior things.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not you.
No, exactly. And like I remember like only recently I really started to realize like what I went through like throughout my life. And I think now I'm more like in control of like my emotions and how to deal with them, how to express them. But in the past I was just like would shut down or use humor for anything.
So easy to deflect into a
joke.
100%.
Right? That was me. I was the biggest person like for deflection. Even like situations like let's say you were in an argument right now, both of you guys, I would use humor to like calm the situation
Diffuse
down.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then
Fuck you, Kevs.
yeah, exactly. No, don't do that. That was me. I was that guy. But yeah. And like also it came up with like I felt like if I wasn't the soccer guy, who am I? And that was I had like an identity crisis because I was like, okay, now people in high school knew about this. I was gonna go play, and when I came back, I was like, okay, if people see me now, what am I gonna do?
See me as a failure.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that was quite difficult to deal with because I didn't want to run into anybody. I didn't want to go out. It was so bad, my mental health at that point. I started breaking out in hives.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, and that was all from anxiety. Because I had no idea how to like tackle it. So like, what's going on? So every time I have anxiety, I would get like little bumps on my arms, my body, and I would itch like crazy. And
a physical response.
Yeah, it was literally that's how
man.
strong it was, how bad my mental health was. I literally, my body was like, it's just like, no, we're just shutting down. And I think what did the doctor say it was? He said it was chronic urticaria, which is urticaria is just a fancy word for hives.
Sure.
But they had no idea how to like there was, they gave me Claritin and medication to try to fix it, but like there's nothing you could really do. And then I went to a naturopath, and he's just like, when this happens, it's your body's going to flight or fight mode. Just let it go, like go through you. Don't fight it. That just changed everything with it. And I had urticaria for, I'd say 2 years. And the naturopath told me about this, and it went away in like a month.
Wow.
Just from that, just from like my mind, telling my mind like, hey, it's okay.
Changed the way you viewed it.
100%. And like, I think, yeah, that was also a big thing too. I was like, whoa, like your mind is so powerful that something simple as that can change so much in your life.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So, I mean, listening to you talk about this, like you've obviously spent some time reflecting on what mental health has looked like for you in the past. So, what has your story with mental health been like for you? If you can remember some maybe like key points going through your life, what's it looked like for you to get to the point where now, as you said, you manage your emotions and everything a bit better. You understand them a bit better.
I would say that my mental health was, I used to think it was very good. Because I thought that, okay, well, I'm like easygoing. I'm like, nothing really gets to me, whatever. But in reality, it was the complete opposite. I didn't really show it as much, but internally, like looking back in my life, I would just keep it to myself and then act like everything was normal. But in reality, like when I'd be alone, I would really feel it. So I realized that with my mental health, like I would feel like these. When I felt good about something, it was an all-time like high. It was the best feeling. But then that also came with like if I was something upset me, I would be so down, and I didn't know how to like find a middle ground for everything. And that was for a long time. I'm 27 now, so I would say it wasn't until like maybe 26, like last year, where I really started to understand that. I really started to control how I would like experience life, I would say.
React to the things in life.
Exactly. I dealt with a lot of anxiety growing up, but I just thought like, oh, I'm just nervous. That's all it was. I was like, I'm just I didn't know what mental health was. Like I wasn't educated on that. So yeah, I was like, I'm just nervous. But now looking back, I'm like, no, that was anxiety.
I was fucking anxious.
Yeah. And that was like every day before school.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh man, like I tell my mom, like, oh, I'm just, like, kind of so nervous. And she's like, oh no, why are you nervous? I'm like, I don't know. It was so bad. I have to like take a shit before I had to go to school. I'm like, oh God, I can't. Wow. But I would just say I'm nervous, and that was it. Like I wouldn't say anything else. I wouldn't talk about it. I would just be like, okay, this sucks. But then I would just like keep it to myself and then go.
That's a good analogy. Sorry to
Yeah,
cut
no,
you
go
off,
ahead.
Al, but that's like a good way of describing what it's like when you don't have an understanding around things. Is your vocabulary in this case is like limited in like understanding what these emotions are and like what these feelings are, what your body and mind is going through. With a limited understanding, it's hard to get what's going on, and you can think one thing is another, right? It's it could prevent someone from making the progress that they need to get a grasp on that.
Yeah.
You
Well, it's
know?
like if you have a problem, you don't even know what the problem. If you don't know what the problem is, how can you fix it?
How can you fix it?
You know, and that was literally me. For a long time, I felt that way with mental health. I just didn't. I acknowledged it, but I didn't really like pay attention to it as much as I should have. And that trickled into so many different things in my life, like relationships, friendships, just career. Yeah, it was in everything, but I didn't really acknowledge it as much or pay attention to it as much because I just felt like, okay, well, I could just move on. Just move on. It's okay, whatever. I'll just deal with it later.
Right.
And then it just
It'll
piled
fix
up.
itself.
Yeah, it just piled up until like it just. I'd say like my breakup with my ex. That was when I was like, whoa, this is bad. Like I was just, I'd hit rock bottom, I think, in that aspect.
In what sense? Like what's bad?
So with my ex, she had a lot of mental health issues. And that was my first experience, I would say, where like I had to actually educate myself on mental health because like I really cared about it. I loved her. So I was like, how do I help her if I don't know anything about this? So I literally would try to educate myself as much as possible on mental health and like anxiety, depression, anything to help her. But I would never take my own advice. Like I would give her so much advice. And that's what I realized. I found out like I'm very good at giving people advice, but when it comes to taking it myself, I'm horrible at it.
Coaches don't play.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was me. I was like, okay, I experienced so much like mental health, I don't know if this is the right word, like mental health problems, mental health issues with my ex, and to the point where I was like literally everything, like she,
but like secondhand though.
Yeah,
like it's
secondhand.
not your own experience at this point.
Exactly.
It's
and then
someone you love,
and then I would experience it, but because I was with her, I was like, no, I have to be strong. So I would kind of like put it on the back burner, but it really affected my relationship with my friendship, like with my friends or like my family and even with her. And I think when we broke up, it was like, whoa, she's gone now. What do I do? Like I have all these problems that I have now. And like I gave her all this advice, but I'm like, I have to start doing it with myself because I'm realizing I'm not the same person I used to be anymore. Like I used to be so happy. I used to be so like outgoing, but then I just kind of shut down after that. One, I did like, because I did miss her, but it was a very toxic relationship. So I
toxic because of,
well, like her mental health, and also I felt very, and this was like before that too, like even before my relationship, I felt like I always need to please people. And I didn't want to let anybody ever down. Right. So with her, she had a lot of things that she would go through, and I always felt like, okay, no, I don't want to let her down. I want to make sure that she knows that I care, I love her, and I would give everything I have to her. But that was so toxic because I wouldn't give anything to myself, and I would put myself in situations where I shouldn't have been in with her, and then I would almost blame her. But it's like, no, I put myself in that situation. That's not her fault. I did that. I have to take accountability for that. Yeah, it's exactly. It's my choice. But I couldn't understand that. It was more like, no, you're doing this and I'm reacting to it. It's like, come on, like, you're like destroying me. But in reality, I was destroying myself. It's not her responsibility to make sure that I'm okay, you know, or yeah, exactly.
It can be very easy to point the blame at another person. Like, I don't know how to properly articulate this. But I feel like some similarities to things that I've gone through in my own like relationships, and it's not their fault. It's never their fault. I don't think it is. Like, the struggle that you were dealing with there of like pouring all your energy towards that other person, that came from a point of care. It's almost like there is no fault in the negative experience that you had there. Yes, it was your choice to be putting yourself in those situations, but you would, in my head, you'd be an asshole not to.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like you have to find a middle ground almost, because you can do as much as you can to a point where you don't let yourself be consumed and you lose who you are.
Or it's taking more from you.
Exactly. And that was a big lesson I learned from that, you know, and that was also very hard for me because I'm a type of person who wants to like give everything I have, but I would like go overboard with it.
Sure.
You know, and to the point where I wasn't even respecting myself. And that was when I started to realize that no, like I have to change. And my friends would tell me, no, like this is not okay, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. But then when I'm by myself, I'm like, maybe I would convince myself that no. Like I see a different side. Yeah, it's not as bad as it is, but
you're not
like,
in this.
Exactly. And I say like, I think last year was the first time where I really like took what people were saying to me and took the time to really like take it in and listen and understand it. Whereas before I would listen but not really understand it and take it in. Exactly. Yeah. So that's been a big change for me, I would say.
When did the breakup happen for you?
God, it was so like, this is how bad this relationship was. So we were together for 4 years.
Long time.
So yeah.
Don't be scared, guys.
And that's what I was like, whoa, 4 years, but it was so on and off. Like I think we had broken up like 3 or 4 times in those 4 years, but so many arguments. But it was like I would hold on to the good moments that we had,
of course,
because I was like, I like to say I'm like a hopeless romantic. I'm like I love that, like I love, you know. So in my head I'm like, okay, well I know she's this, I know she's this. But like if she's doing like 20-30% good and like 70-80% like not what you would think is good, then it's like, okay, you have to like realize what's the reality.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the potential.
Sure.
Because I know she wanted to change. But I know like at the time it was hard. Now I do. But back then I was like, come on, why don't you? Why don't you?
Like, why isn't this getting better?
Yeah, why is this getting better? And there was a time where I was like, okay, I have to hate my ex. I have to hate my ex, you know? And I never hated anybody in my life. And I felt like that was the only way I could really like let her go. But then I decided that no, like I really tried to understand that situation and that whole relationship. And I realized that a lot of the stuff that I was upset about, I was valid to be upset, but I was also not taking accountability for a lot of stuff that I reacted to. Or put myself in, like the situations that I was in. So once I accepted that, I had no hate for her. Like till this day, we didn't end on a good note, but I still have love for her. Like if she walked by, whatever, I would have no hatred towards her. I would just be like, hey, how are you? Doing good? That's all. Like, but understanding that, yeah, exactly. That's it. Nothing more. Like I wish her happiness, everything. But I just don't think I can ever hate anybody. And letting myself be okay with her not being in my life was hard. But then once I accepted it and like really understood that, hey, like we're just not meant to be, but it's okay. I felt a lot better. And that helped in like other aspects of my life, like my friendships, relationship with like Derek. He's my best friend, but we've been through so much shit together, like so many like highs, but also a lot of lows. Because like on his side it was mental health, my side mental health, but it was like at different times. And then now we're at this like point where we've worked on mental health so much that like our friendship is so strong. And yeah, I think now I'm like, okay, am I ready for a relationship? I don't know, maybe or maybe not, but I'm not gonna deny myself, but I'm also not gonna like be like, I need a relationship right now. I need a relationship right now. Like I used to be that guy. Like I'm never gonna be in a relationship, or I need to be in a relationship. Like now I'm like, all right, if it happens, it happens. And that's how I'm like living life now. And it's like, it brings so much peace to me.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good place to be in.
Yeah.
Like when you say, you're saying you'd let it come if it happened. I kind of wish that for all of my friends, because I'm looking at my friends and I see some of their problems sometimes. Not just you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But I wish that for all of my friends, that you can be comfortable being independent.
Yeah.
But you're open to, I mean, for myself even too, because I'm not at that stage where I feel like I'm open to a relationship right now. But that's what I wish for all the people closest to me. And, like I'm happy that you're experiencing that.
Yeah.
It's always interesting when people say like, I'm not ready for a relationship, because I'm always like, like what is, because there's so many different factors, it's like, if you don't mind, what is it for you that you're not ready for a relationship? Like why? I asked you that question, Cabs, because I know I've seen this podcast and you're always like, I'm not gonna say anything, but
I mean,
you're saying it today. I'm telling you right now.
I mean, a lot of the times I'll play it up a little bit, but I confidently don't think I'm ready for a relationship. And what I mean by that is, based on my past 2 relationships, there comes a point where I get bored and it feels stagnant. And I start thinking about other women too.
Okay.
Not that I'm not a cheater and I don't like talk to other women, but those thoughts are in my head and I don't feel good about it at the end of the day. So I look for an escape.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a way out of
I
that
look for a
relationship.
way out. Yeah, and I'll look for the opportunity of a good argument.
Here's a good fight.
And I'll work from there.
Can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
dude, that was literally me. Like I got to a point where I was like, oh man, like as soon as I thought about like, okay, someone else, I just knew that I needed to end this. Because like, why am I feeling that? Because something is definitely up here, and we couldn't talk about it. Like,
couldn't or wouldn't?
I don't think we tried to, but I think where she was at mentally wasn't able to articulate how she was really feeling.
Do you feel like there was a piece of that on you too?
Yeah, 100%. I think like, so with myself, when I want to talk about something, I want to get it out right away. Like, let's talk. Come on, like let's figure this out. And for some people, they need to have that time to like really understand what you're saying and process it, and then articulate what they want to say. For a long time, I had like, no, why do you take so much time? Like, let's talk. It's like, no, there's different ways of like articulating how you feeling and how you take things. And I think now having an understanding of that, my relationships with people is a lot better. But yeah, for a long time, it was more like one way of thinking, and that was it. Yeah.
For myself, I've felt I like to take time with what I'm thinking, but I also see things like those kinds of conversations. I see them almost as confrontation more than a conversation, and I get afraid of entering that, even though it doesn't have to be. And that took a long time for me to start to feel less like that. And I do think I still struggle with it sometimes, where I have a bit of a delay before I bring something up, because I see it as confrontation to bring something up. Do you ever feel anything like that, where maybe you didn't want to have these conversations? It sounds like you didn't. It sounds like you were like the one pushing for the talk. But
I never thought of it as confrontation, but it came back to that thing. I didn't want to disappoint anybody. So I would sometimes, most of the time I would want to talk right away. But when I didn't get that, I went overboard with texting, making sure, hey, what's going on? And it's like, how do you give that person like time to really process what's going on if you don't let them experience like and understand it, But I understand, like I don't think I felt like it was a confrontation, but I know that my ex felt that way, And once I understood that, I mean, it was already too late by then, but
Yeah,
once I
yeah.
understood that, I had a better understanding of our entire relationship as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And she always kept saying, it's funny because like literally last night, I don't know why, I was searching something on my phone. Like, you know, when you go to messages, you can type in like a word and it shows up all this stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the messages was from my ex, and I was like, okay, I clicked on it. I
this,
should not have done that.
Yeah.
I clicked on it, looked at it, and I'm like, it actually like made me very emotional because she was expressing to me, it was a long message. We had an argument about something. She was expressing to me how she was feeling. And me, who at that time couldn't really fully understand what she was going through. But me now, I'm like, holy shit, man. Like, I wish.
Regret.
Yeah. Like, it felt like regret because I'm like, fuck, if you had met me now, like who I am now, then I'm like, I would have been able to help you. I would have been able to understand you better. Like, it would have been so much more easier, our relationship, if we had met at different times, I guess, because who she was then, like, she changed as a person. I think she changed into a better person, and she always said that too, like she changed a better person in our relationship, but I was turning into someone who wasn't a good person. And then when I finally started to become a good person, like, it was just, we're at different levels, you know? And yeah, but it also made me realize that, man, like, I've really worked hard on my mental health, because now that when I look back at these conversations, I'm like, it's so easy to understand.
Them in a new light now.
Exactly. Yeah. But back then I'm like, when I would read stuff like that, I'm like, oh no, I'm so sorry. Like, let me give you a hug or something. Like, I wasn't able to help them as well as I am able to help people now.
Right.
Yeah.
It can be tough to live in a world of what ifs though.
Yeah.
Like, thinking like, if you had met this person at a different time, would things work out differently?
Yeah.
I feel like it can trap you sometimes.
Do you guys believe in right person, wrong time?
To some extent, I do.
I feel like there's a lot of that though. I feel like everyone's gone through that.
Yeah.
Because everyone's growing.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know. Who is the right person?
Yeah.
Who is the right person?
That's the other thing too. And so first, I want to say like, thank you, Jaspal, for being as open as you are in this conversation, like talking about all this stuff. This is nice just to like hear and just like get your story, you know, with like how relationships have looked for you, how mental health has looked for you. And I do want to come back in a minute to what changed last year for you and maybe what's working for you with your mental health. But I want to come back to what you were talking about with like feeling bored, Kabir.
Oh yes.
And the part that I want to get at is what we were talking about briefly, like privately before this podcast a little bit, was like convenience. Convenience in dating. In the modern world, we have dating at our fingertips. The idea that there could be someone else out there is an easy thought to have. I think it's something that's not like outrageous to think like, oh yeah, I could open up the app again and I could find someone else. Do you feel like that has played at all into your reluctance to feel as though someone can be the right person? Because I feel like in this world now, like, what is the right person? You could just, if you're happy with someone, why can't that person be a right person? Is there the right person, or is it a right person? You know what I'm saying?
I do get what you're
saying. Oh my God.
Loaded. I don't know if that's played into my issues from my past relationships, because the past 3 relationships, which I felt like I've gone through the same thing towards the end, I was never on those apps.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think that's the same for me, but I do get what you're saying, because the convenience of, you know, dating apps, which is something I talked about with you, which I read an article about a book.
In an article about a book.
I read articles. And it was called the Paradox of Choice.
Yeah.
I forgot the author.
Great.
This is going great. But it outlines how you have so many choices, which makes, I'm going to paraphrase really dumb here, but you've got all these choices, which in the end makes you think the grass is always greener. So how that works in online dating is you've got all these, you're literally going through a hot or not thing.
It is a stack of people.
Yeah. So, and I've experienced this before where you're swiping and you might have a conversation with a good looking man or woman, or whatever you may identify as, but
inclusive. This podcast is inclusive.
Okay.
Thank you, Kabir.
But, and I've gone through this where you might go on a date with them and things are going fine. And if you met this person in real life, you're having a conversation with them, but you haven't met them yet. But if you met this person in real life, you'd be thinking, oh, this is great. I want to see this person more.
Yeah.
But it's like you've got all these options in the background. You're like, how can I not? Literally, yeah. How can I not look at all these options? And I've matched with a hotter person before, so that I'll match with a hotter person later again, and I'll have a conversation with a hotter person later. So why do I need to have this conversation now? It's very toxic thinking.
Yeah.
But I've definitely experienced it. But I don't think it
quite affects what happened in your last two relationships.
No.
Sure. Fair enough. But I feel like for us in this modern age, like dating and romantic relationships is interesting, and it's going to shape up to be an interesting thing going forward. More and more people are saying how they want to be independent. They don't need somebody because they just don't. And so there are going to be fewer relationships that lead to marriages. I feel like that's probably going to end up happening. There was some stat I was seeing that the projections for the world population are that they're actually going to start to decrease eventually because people are having fewer kids, less people are getting married and having children. About damn time.
Honestly,
we're at 8 billion now. But yeah, when Kabir and I were talking about that, the paradox of choice, we were also talking about how dating now in our generation is maybe influenced by like instant gratification that we get. We've talked a little bit about how a person may need to do like work, right? Emotional work to get to a better place, right person, wrong time, that kind of thing. And I do fully believe, and I'll ask y'all quickly, do you also believe that certain emotional work and internal development can only happen on your own? I feel as though sometimes it can't happen in the presence of another person, because what if that person is potentially a stopper, whether it's intentional or not? Do you agree with that?
I would say.
Do you think that you would have grown the way you did if you had stayed in that relationship?
No.
And do you think that growth is necessary?
Yeah.
Right.
I think
there
that
you
growth
have
is definitely necessary. Yeah.
That's the answer to that piece.
Yeah.
So to continue what I was going to say though, is like we have so much at our fingertips today that's instant. I was saying how you can Uber something to you, right? I can Uber Eats food. I can DoorDash, skip the dishes. I got options of ways to deliver food to me instantly, and I don't have to leave the house. I can order an Uber to get a ride somewhere. I don't have to wait for a cab to show up. There's all these cars that are floating around me that'll be instantaneous. I can same day ship a package from Amazon and it's here. A movie releases on Netflix. I don't have to go to a theater. It's there right away. So much in our life is now instant, and we have this expectation that stuff occurs quicker. Maybe there's an underlying expectation for our generation, the generation younger than us as well, maybe a bit of the generation older than us too, that says the development of a person should happen quicker. Your emotional development should happen quicker. And if it's not up to whatever pace you think it needs to hit in your head, maybe it's easier to leave that relationship.
Yeah. I honestly, I've experienced that with like when I feel like there's different stages of my dating. So before my ex, I didn't really date. It was more like hookup culture. That was all it was. So then when I really wanted to date, but I just wasn't able to settle down, I guess. I just was like, I'm having fun. And the lifestyle I was living, I was like, okay, I don't really want to be tied down because I never want to cheat on my girlfriend ever. And I know what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm not going to be able to just stick with one person. So that was the first stage. And then the second stage, I actually was in a relationship. I loved it. But then when that ended, I was like, okay, what do I do now? Do I go back to that? My first stage, I wasn't hurt then. I was in control. Like I had, like I just didn't care.
I'm listening. I'm
looking at.
I just didn't care. I was like, all right, well, no one can really hurt me because I'm not letting anyone in. But that also came down to like I became very good at manipulation. So I knew exactly what girls wanted to hear. I knew exactly like what to say here, all that, blah blah. I was a fuckboy. Like that was me. Like and for a long time I didn't want to admit it because I was like, I'm not treating girls like horribly, but I wasn't being truthful to them. Like and I would make excuses. So then when I got to a situation where I was like, you know what, I don't want to be that anymore, blah blah, I want to actually try to open up and be a different me and try like actually settling down and dating. It was karma because I experienced girls who did the exact same thing to me, what I used to do to girls. So I was like, whoa, so this is what I was doing? Damn. But what I've realized, so now I'm in a situation. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, now I'm in a situation where I'm like, I'm meeting these cool girls and they're like genuinely like they're like they fit my personality, my lifestyle, everything. And I'm like, whoa, this is like, I like this. But I realized that our generation, like you said, everything is so instant, like instant gratification. But when it comes to dating, nobody's like that. I feel like if you like someone, it's like 3 months down the line, should we be in a relationship? I don't know. It's like we have to take things super, super, super slow. That's what I've experienced. And I think a lot of people are afraid of commitment, like because there are so many options that they're like, oh, okay, well, I don't know if I'm ready. But then when you do find that person, it's like, whoa, I feel like for myself, I'm going to be very, very like hesitant a little bit because I'm like, is this real? Because I don't know if this is real in our generation anymore. Like meeting somebody, because like I've yet to meet someone who started dating someone recently and they're still like together. Any person that I know that's in a relationship have been together for a couple of years. And I'm like, whoa. So like now getting in a relationship, it's like, what is a relationship anymore? It's like, are we just dating or what is that? Like, are you boyfriend, girlfriend? Like, I feel like there's so many different like denominators in the situation. It's like, what's going on? Like, I have no idea what dating is anymore.
Yeah. It's a strange world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for answering all that, guys. That was like a bit of a sidetrack, but I want to come back to what changed for you last year. You were saying that your mental health has kind of like started to increase. You've noticed yourself being more aware of it, more in touch with your emotions, your feelings, and what has changed? What's different? What's working for you?
I think so. Last year, I had ended things with my ex.
So it was last year. I don't think we got when I asked when did this happen.
I think I was like, I wasn't sure because we were so on and off. I was like,
right. That was what you're saying. About 4 years.
So last year I did end things with my ex. I think it was like the beginning of the year. And yeah, it was really bad to the point where I knew I could never go back to this. And that's where I was like, okay, this is like done. I can't go back to this ever again. And that's where I was like almost forced to look at myself and be like, okay, how do I have a happy life? Because I felt like I was using my ex as a way of like distracting myself from like the problems that I had in my life. And so then I had to deal with these problems. Like, okay, well, what do I do? Blah, blah, blah. Like I just didn't know what to do. So then I really tried to experiment with different things, going to therapy, which I hadn't really done that much before. Maybe I had once or twice, but I really started taking it seriously. Therapy, journaling, being more vulnerable with my friends and talking about what I was going through. And also being more open-minded to a lot of things. So before, like, I'd be more hesitant on saying, like, doing things. But I think last year was the first year where I really started being like, yes, I'm down. Let's do it. And experiencing life and not being afraid. And doing that, I've started to realize like, oh, I like doing this, or I love this. I love that. I love this. And I really started to find myself. And that kind of like translated into like YouTube and even TikTok, like doing stuff with like the rest of the boys on Please Sponsor Us. And that was really fun too, because like for a long time, Derek and I, we were like, all right, we have this great friendship.
It's like you two there. Yeah.
But we don't need anybody else. It was like, all right, well, we would have other people come into our friend group, I guess. And then it would always just fizzle away. But this time, like with Jesse and Joseph, it was so cool how we all bonded together, and we're like, open-minded and just like accepting everything and just taking information. It was incredible because like I think if I had been the old me, I don't think I would have been able to experience that.
Sure.
But with working on my mental health and doing anything I possibly can, and even to this day, like if I find something new that's like good to work on with mental health, I'm still gonna do it because I'm like, okay, you have to keep working on it, otherwise it's not. I'm gonna go back to the who I used to be because it's very easy to go back into your old habits if you don't work on them, you know. So yeah, I think definitely like journaling has been massive for me, and that also helped me become better with being on my own. For a long time, I was like, I like being around people, and I've got stimulation from that. And when I was alone, I was like, man, this sucks. I'm so bored. I need to like do something, go out, whatever.
Yeah.
I was never comfortable being in my own space, but now I would say I'm very, very comfortable just being okay and being alone on a Friday night, Saturday night, just doing nothing, or just being by myself and finding a painting, or I don't know, like just anything. And that's what I started doing, just doing anything, just by myself, like painting. I never had painted before, but I like it. I suck at it. I'm horrible at painting, but I like doing it because I'm like, all right, it's just interesting. It's something new. So yeah, I definitely like I've started to work on being more open-minded to a lot of things, and that's helped me so much with my mental health.
When you talk about like being on your own and how helpful journaling has been, when you're on your own, like you're just with your thoughts, right? And what journaling does for me is it gets those thoughts out, and it's like it's a window into the unconscious, right? It's a window into understanding yourself a little bit better.
Yeah.
And all of what you're saying there too with trying therapy, right? And working on these relationships with your friends, right? Trying to like strengthen those as much as you are, makes me think of that Stutz documentary that's out. And we like, you said that you had just watched it recently. I know you haven't, Captain. That's okay. For all of you listening and watching, like if you have not seen Stutz yet, you should. It's on Netflix, and I think it's incredible. It's Jonah Hill talking to his therapist, Phil Stutz. And he talks about, and I'll bring up two of these things right now, but he talks about all these tools. One tool is your life force. Working on your life force is something you can always do. And I'll get to that in a second. And I'm going to get to that and how it ties into friendships. But another thing you mentioned is like the realities of life, right? I don't think that's exactly what he says, but there are three things that are like guaranteed to be a part of your life, which is pain, uncertainty, and constant work. And we mentioned, well, it is true, right? Like those things are always there. You don't know how things are going to work out. That's the uncertainty. You are guaranteed to run into things that are painful, but then there's the constant work of bettering yourself and your relationships and everything that you do. That's a given in life. But you can remind yourself of those things, that it's going to happen and you're going to be okay coming out of it on the other side, right? But in that documentary, I think it's in like the first 20 minutes, you'll hear about working on your life force. A very short summary for everybody listening and watching is, imagine a little pyramid. There's 3 tiers to it, 3 levels. The first level is your relationship with your body and how you understand it. The second level is your relationship with other people. And the third level is your relationship with yourself. And what Phil Stutz says is that if you're ever feeling lost, you can always work on your life force. That's always something that's there. It's always something that's concrete. It's tangible. There are clear steps you can take towards that. Things like intentionally making an effort to hang out with people. This is what made me think of it, was you saying that this year you've been saying yes, yes, yes. Right? Saying that you want to go do things and discovering new things that you like to do through doing that. That's something that when you are feeling lost or depressed can be very hard to do, because you don't want to hang out with other people. It feels like you can't.
Yeah.
Right? Getting out of bed is difficult, like you talked about when you were going through that injury. How do you feel working on your relationships with other people is placing in your life right now? Like, why is that so important for you in working on your mental health, and why do you feel the need to work on those relationships at all?
So I think for me, I've always wanted to reach out to people and like who I was interested in, or like I felt like, okay, I could definitely vibe with you, but I would always shut myself off. I'm like, I would make excuses like, maybe something wouldn't work out. I don't know, blah, blah. They might not like me, whatever. But recently I've just been like messaging people that I always admired and or like followed them back on Instagram or whatever, thinking like, okay, you know what, if they don't follow me back or we don't talk, whatever. But 100% success rate with every single person that I've always tried to, like, I've admired or whatever, and we've talked and it's been great. And every single time I keep making new relationships, I'm gaining more confidence in myself. I'm gaining like this newfound, I don't know, I guess inspiration just to like do things that I would never usually do. And meeting so many different people and gaining knowledge from them I know it's making me such a better person. And because I know that, it makes me want to keep reaching out to different people and wanting to build these relationships, because that's something I've always wanted. I've always liked doing that. It's just, or I like the idea of it, but I didn't want to put in the work for it.
To actually do it.
Yeah. And now that I'm doing it, I'm like, whoa, this is like, for myself, I can say it's easier than I thought, because for a long time I didn't realize, I couldn't accept the fact that I was a people person, that I could talk to. And everyone said that, like, you're such a good people person. I'm like, oh, really? I don't really see that. But once I accepted it, I'm like, you know what? Just have some confidence in yourself. Maybe you are, you know? And once I did that, it was so much more easier to just be myself with people. And yeah, I think I'm a type of person that likes listening to people and like really, no matter what they're talking about, I love learning about new things. So whenever someone talks, I'm like, okay, talk more. Like, I love this. I want to learn more about this. I've always been like an interested person in people. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that, Jaspal.
Yeah,
you mentioned a little bit ago, a little bit about being more vulnerable with your friends. I think vulnerability is important. We used to start these episodes with a little like slogan, almost like it was the intro. I said the same thing all the time. Welcome back to On Your Mental. It's the podcast that shares candid, open, sometimes vulnerable conversations between about men. So I value vulnerability. I think it's important. There's like a bit of like a pseudo vulnerability out in the world sometimes, where it's like you feel like you're, just by saying things about you, that's being vulnerable. But what does vulnerable or being vulnerable look like to you now in your relationships? Why is that important to you in your friendships? What have you learned with it?
So I think the biggest thing for me is being honest with who I am as a person to my friends. For a long time, I had a hard, like, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't be honest about who I was as a person to my friends, because I wanted them to have this image of me. And once I decided that, you know what, fuck that, I don't care. Like, I how am I supposed to get help or, you know, trust people if they don't really know the real me? If I'm not telling them the full problem and I'm leaving bits out, they can't help me with anything. So once I started doing that, luckily I have like the best friends in the whole world, so they accepted me for me. And doing so, I felt more confident of just being more honest and just being myself more, and telling my friends the honest truth about like who I am as a person or whatever. Like, for example, with Jesse, I was having issues with a girl, and I asked Jesse about it, and he gave me some advice, and he's like, you were very like controlling, or you were very like the main thing he said, you're very controlling in the situation. And I was like, oh man, like I didn't mean to be. I don't want to be that guy. That's not me. That's not the real me. And Jesse was like, I think you are, dude. But you have to accept that. That doesn't mean you have to be that guy forever, but I hope you know that's who you are right now.
That's such a good point. Sorry, that hit me in a weird way. It's like you might not like the way that you are sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. It's okay
if you don't like the way you are about something.
And as soon as he said that, I was like, holy shit, dude, you're right. That's who I am. I was super controlling, and this was like I don't even know how long ago now, but it was months ago. And he told me that, and I was like, shit, I hate that. Like, he just found this out. Like, damn it, I hate this. But him doing so, like him telling me the honest truth, it made me realize that, hey, it's okay that you are this person, but if you want to change, you have every like single tool to help you change. And I always think back to that moment because I'm like, yeah, like that was a huge thing because I changed from that. I let go of control, and I started to really realize it when I would be in situations where I could feel myself being like, no, and then I would like, no, think back to that conversation, let go of control. So I'm very grateful for Jesse for doing that for me.
But all that came from you being vulnerable with your friends.
Yeah, exactly. Because I when he said that, I was like, I can either fight him on this or I can just
I could be controlling on this.
Yeah, exactly. No. Literally. And I was like, shit, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Wow. And so that was a big thing for me because I'm like, okay, well, because of that moment, I know that if I'm just honest with myself, that doesn't mean that that's who I am forever. And you can change if you want to. I actually gave this advice to my friend recently, and he was just like, damn, you're right. Like, I have to accept this. And if you want to change, you can. And if you don't, I mean, as long as you have boundaries with certain people, that's okay. You can keep that relationship, But yeah, I think for me, vulnerability, that was a big key, being honest with everyone.
Yeah. I feel like, and vulnerability and honesty go hand in hand, right? I think that vulnerability can like reveal truths about things, about like who you are in this case, right? Earlier we said there's that classic thing of like, how can you find a solution to a problem when you don't know what a problem is, right? When having Jesse tell you straight to your face, like, dude, I think you are controlling.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It felt like, what just happened? Like, damn, what? But yeah, I think it was actually quite quick how I grasped it. As soon as he told me that, I was like, all right, gears just started going right away. I'm like, damn, you know what? You're right. And I realized in that moment, like, I was controlling in all of my relationships with a lot of people. And that's where the manipulation came into play. I would manipulate things to my control. And as soon as I understood that, I'm like, holy shit, I'm manipulating people. I didn't even realize I was manipulating people when I just thought I was just me. But no, that's not good. So I have to be honest. Like I had to be like, you know what? I did manipulate people. I was a person that was a fuckboy towards girls. I was this. And once I accepted it all and really like took it in, I'm like, okay, now I can solve the problems that I have, because to me, they were problems. They may not be certain problems to people, like different people, but to me, if I don't like that, then I want to change it. And then to change it, I have to be honest about myself and what I'm doing. And so, yeah, I think that was a big thing for me.
I want to tie something into like your scenario before, where you had gone through a 4-year on and off relationship, whatever you want to describe that part of it as, with someone who was dealing with their own mental health issues at the time, right? Thinking of how you're viewing vulnerability now and seeing the value in being vulnerable with your friends, do you think that you would approach a situation where you're maybe in a romantic relationship with someone who is struggling with mental health differently now that you see vulnerability as this sort of power in a way?
Yeah, it actually happened recently.
Yeah.
I'll say it. Not gonna say her name, but I was talking to a girl and I was like, all right, not my usual type, but I want to try it, and it went great. We started hanging out, talking a lot. It was fantastic, but things were going too quickly for her, which I'm like, okay, that's fair. But some of the stuff that she was saying, I could see things that I've done in the past to girls, and how she would word things, and it became very apparent to me that it's not, it may have been moving too fast for her, but I don't know if this is right to say or not, but I don't think it was moving too quickly. It was that she hadn't dealt with a lot of the stuff that happened with her ex and the trauma that she had gone through. but she had told me she had. But some of the stuff she was saying and how she would word things, it wasn't a conversation. It was more like confrontation and an attack and everything I was saying. And because of what I went through and like the growing that I've done, I could see that, and I called her out on it. So, and usually I don't really do that, but I'm like, you know what?
You pulled a Jesse.
Yeah. I usually don't do that. I usually just like ghost. Done. But I haven't done that in a long time. And that's a good thing, because now like if I'm feeling a certain way, I want the person to know and that I'm feeling this way. And this person that I was talking to, like we had been talking for like, you know, a little while, and I called her out and I was 100% honest. I said, respectful though, like I wasn't rude to her at all. I just said like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. I just want you to know that like I'm not your therapist. I'm not going to tell you everything that like I'm seeing here. That's up to you to figure that out on your own. I'm just letting you know that I don't think I can be a part of this anymore because of this. And she was like, all right, let me just take some time here and think. So we talked on the phone for this conversation, and she called me back a couple hours later, and she's like, yeah, it was a lot of self-sabotage on her end. And she realized that a lot of stuff she was saying, it was because she hadn't dealt with a lot of stuff. And she said, and I told her like, hey, that's totally understandable. I'm glad you were so vulnerable with me about this and honest about it, but I can't be around this again, where you are dealing with this stuff. And it's tough. It's not okay. It sucks, but I've been through this with my ex. I've been through with other people before. And I know myself that if I continue this with you and you're still working on yourself, you have to work on yourself at your own time and own like pace. And I know with myself right now, I can't be around someone like that because I'm still trying to work on my own stuff. So that was a big thing for me because I never would have done that before.
I like what you're saying here is this helped you and it helped them.
Yeah,
at least we can hope that it helped them, you know.
Well, yeah,
it definitely helped you. But do you feel like it would have helped them to realize this stuff?
I think it definitely did. She mentioned that it was helpful, because I feel like that person was surrounded by a lot of yes men. So they were all going in the situation, like they'd broken up around the same time, and it was like everything that person was like, everything that girl was saying about like relationships, right? Like how she didn't want to go through this, but I could see it happening with her friends. And if someone's around that all the time, how you're gonna see that as being normal. Yeah. So that's and when I called her out on a lot of stuff, gears started clicking. I could see it, and even how she would talk, I could see that she was like, she had realized that, oh shit, like no one had mentioned this to her before, and I think that changed a lot of stuff with her.
Yeah, that she maybe wasn't as done with the past as she thought she was.
Exactly.
And finished that work.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jazz, for sharing everything. I hope you had a good time being on our podcast here. Did either of you have anything else that you wanted to say that hasn't been said in this episode?
I want to keep going.
We keep them to an hour. This
is so much fun.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you had a good time. Cabs, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Nothing, man.
Yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to ask. Did you get as nervous before sports games?
Oh, all the time.
I got like deathly nervous, and I'm just like,
yeah,
deathly,
dude. Yeah, same here. I would almost throw up before every soccer game.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
it's normal then. Right?
Yeah.
Normal.
Well, when you're good at sports, when you're good at sports, the pressure, it's nuts. Man. But once, like the whistle would blow to start, it would just change.
Yeah, it gives
really okay.
Well, you were still felt that way.
Yeah, I was still lingering.
For me, yeah, it was.
Cabs was dropping the ball.
I love that. That's sick.
Man, I'm surprised that we never ran into each other with soccer. But you said you're 27 right now, right?
Yeah.
So maybe just a different year. Yeah, you were.
How old are you?
I'm 96. So you're 95, right?
But
6 years.
What?
Yeah, 96 years young, baby. I'm 26.
Well, What league did you play in Richmond?
I played in Richmond. Yeah.
Did you play Metro?
I didn't ever do Metro. I
Oh.
did Gold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I played Metro, so that's why.
I hated all
Metro's
the Metro
higher than
players.
Gold.
Yeah,
I was like, what's going on?
It
Yeah. Yeah.
I hated all the Metro kids, man. Dude, I was so fucking bitter about it. There's like, so the coach.
Roberto.
No, Roberto. I liked Roberto.
Really?
I liked Roberto. He
Wow.
he never had a problem with me.
Yeah.
He was a fucking hard ass. Like he swore at kids. Like,
Roberto?
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I've seen like players' parents like get into like verbal fights with the guy because he was just a dick, right? But he led to success. You know,
Oh
he's
yeah.
one of those.
Was he
kind of
hard ass or
coaches.
was he a dick?
Both. He had a hard
Okay.
ass and a hard dick.
Well. Oh my god.
But I was so bitter because I tried out for Metro eventually one year,
Yeah.
and I was a goalkeeper, right? And the goalkeeper for the Metro team that ended up being selected, his dad was the fucking coach, man.
Oh.
Like, of course,
it's
not
one of
gonna-
those.
Yeah, like I'm not getting picked.
One of
Like,
those.
I knew I was better than him too. The
politics.
so better. So
Roberto would
better.
call players out on that too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like he would like so in coach like when we were like practices and stuff and the player would mess up, and if his dad was the coach, he'd be like, "You're only here because your dad."
Oh,
He would just say it straight to his face. Yeah, and he's like, if you don't like change it, and he would swear at kids. Yeah, he didn't care. But
Yeah.
like, I
there
think
were news articles that came out about Roberto later though. Like,
Yeah.
like parents made
No,
they
they did.
filed real complaints.
you know what's funny?
Yeah.
That was my my little cousin's team. So that was and like Roberto. The thing with Roberto was he was this coach that was paid to the coach like Metro, right? But he built like a dynasty. Like Richmond Soccer Metro was like they won every year.
They were sick.
Yeah, it was for years and years, and that was because of him, because he's training everything, and with him, like his training methods were like, we have 3 drills we're gonna do for 2 hours, and that's it. But he would just it was just the fundamentals, and we got so good at that. But yeah, like he was on my little cousin's team. The kid, he like messed up and he grabbed. I think was it
You grabbed them by the fucking
yeah,
neck.
like
Oh,
the neck,
God.
yeah. And then one of the parents saw, and they were like, "What the fuck,
Yeah.
dude? No!" And then it's funny because all the other former players were like petitioning, like, "No, it's okay." We'd all gone through that shit, but none of our
Yeah.
parents would ever care to show up to practices.
Yeah.
So they never saw it.
They drop you off.
Yeah,
You're
they just
good.
never saw any of it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love that. I love coaches like that, though.
Yeah, they get results. In
Yeah.
perhaps
You gotta
a
have the right
scary
players
way.
on the team for that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
yeah, but
for-
yeah, no, I love that too. I love getting spanked by my coach.
I love getting choked.
he's the
Feels hard right now.
Cav slowly transitioned to sex life. Well, you guys don't like gagging? What?
Cass has like a funny like role play thing in the bedroom. He makes them get a whistle.
Yeah.
One of ththose coach jackets, the huge like. Just choke me.
No wonder you're like,
man.
oh man, like you get bored easily. You gotta change it up a lot.
Man. Oh god. Anyways, yo, I looked down at my pants maybe 3 minutes ago. I didn't realize these were blue the whole time. I thought I had black pants on. And
God.
if that's a sense of how well my mind's working today, Jazz, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course, guys.
And really enjoyed you being here. Thanks for sharing so much.
I love this.
Very open. It was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, we can do it again sometime.
100%.
Season 4, come back next year.
I'm so down.
Everybody listening and watching, hope you enjoyed this one. Of course, we will we'll see you in 2 weeks with another one. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll see you later. Peace.
Bye.